Greetings, listeners. Welcome to Consulting Between Friends. I'm your host, Michael Holmes Jr. When there is a concern in your community, there are different types of people who can resolve the problem. For example, violence and street damage in the community. The state representative can resolve this problem and create a solution for the problem. This episode, I will be interviewing a state representative from Louisiana. This person, by the name of Rodney Lyons, is the state representative of District 87 in Louisiana. The topic for this episode is why the state representative is an important aspect to the community. We will return after a message from our sponsor. Everyone is always planning things, and advertising is needed to make it happen. So, if it's personal or business, let Pinpoint Designs and Images solve that problem. With Pinpoint Designs and Images LLC, you will receive quality work and professional service at a great price. The service that is offered: flyers, business cards, programs, invitations, photo books, ad booklets, and much more. Michael Holmes Jr., owner/principal designer of Pinpoint Designs and Images LLC, contact me by email or social media. Email address is pinpointdesignsandImages@gmail.com, and Instagram Pinpoint Designs, and Facebook Pinpoint Designs and Images. We are back. Before the interview begins with State Representative Rodney Lyons, I want you to know how I know him over the years. See, I belong to the Jeremiah Group, which is a nonprofit organization, and we do not endorse any candidates. Over the years, the Jeremiah Group held different events in Jefferson Parish which focus on informing the community. By informing the community, the Jeremiah Group invited political officials to an event which the community had a chance to learn more about the political officials in their parish. Being a member of the Jeremiah Group over the years allowed me to meet all different kinds of political officials and learning more about them on a personal level than most people. I'm glad I had this opportunity over the years to meet public officials. This is how I know Rodney Lyons, State Representative of District 87. After a short break, we will return. We are back. My guest for today is Rodney Lyons, State Representative of Louisiana, District 87. Welcome to Consulting Between Friends.
Well, thank you, Mike. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to interviewing you today and seeing what you are talking about as a state representative.
Well, I'm talking about a lot of things. There's a lot going on in the state right now, and there's a lot that we're dealing with, as the effect of Hurricane Ida, and we're still in the middle of a pandemic, which we're working through. But it's supposed to be business as usual, so we're trying to do a normal scale of things that we're doing, and I'm looking forward to getting some things done.
I like how you just said all of that just now. Well, what I'm about to do right now is I would like to do have you a chance to have a brief discussion. So I want you to explain a little bit to yourself to the listeners.
About myself?
Yes.
Well, as you said into the intro, I'm State Representative District 87, which here is here on the west bank of Jefferson Parish. It's a very diverse district. I call it downtown West Bank, where I represent. I'm in my second term here as a legislature and a representative. My focus is primarily on people and community and the attributes that, are there that we don't recognize. And people always use the term, give a voice to the voiceless. I don't look at people as not having a voice, but they need to have an extension of their voice. And that's what I am. That's what I have been. And I look forward to continue doing that. Other than that, I am a I am a retiree businessman slash businessman. I retired from Jefferson Parish about 6 years ago, and I do a consulting service, but I also spend a lot of time, more than part time, being legislator. And I'm very accessible. Like to work with people. I think I'm a people person. So let's see exactly if you have anything else, that some of your listeners may want to talk about.
I like how you just give a brief description about yourself and what other things that you participate in the community and with yourself. Now we're about to get ready and get started.
Okay.
What was your first project in the community after Hurricane Ida?
My first project after Ida was just to make sure it wasn't a official project, but it was more of me running the district, looking into the neighborhoods to see what damage was there and see what people were affected. My One of my biggest affinities is the senior citizens, and second is that is kids. So I know there's a number of citizens in our district along the West Bank who some live alone, some of them are elderly couples, and the fact that a lot of them don't have extended families, it's important that someone attends to them. So that was my first goal, to make sure that those people who are here were checked on, had the ability to have services on their behalf and what have you. Or if they need to leave or get out, there's a way for them to do that.
Yes. I like how you just explained that and you mentioned about the senior citizens because that's really important. Because sometimes they need more help than the rest of us because they might don't have the transportation or somebody in their family might can't help them either.
hmm And that's a lot of what's there, and that was my focus immediately after the storm.
Since you mentioned in the storm, when you was riding around the neighborhoods, what type of destruction do you end up seeing?
Well, mostly you saw a lot of trees down, tree damage to some homes, but mostly roofs. It was hard to tell, some of the rear damage, but you can see where shingles was lifted in some areas. So you would or would not know if a person had water damage if they weren't there. But there was a lot of people who stayed here, after the storm. And those people were like, out trying to figure out, what do I do next? There's no power. I can barely use the sewerage, water pressure, water was going on and off, up and down. So those people, you can imagine, how scared they were or uncertain about, their safety or whatever they were. So it was important that those people know that there was someone out there that cared and wanted to make sure they were okay.
Yes, and I agree. And when you mentioned about the water problem, I was here as well, but my water was able to work, but I did realize the pressure was going up and down as
hmm And there were several neighborhoods that the water actually stopped stopped working, stopped flowing in, believe it or not,
well.
momentarily because of loss of generator power at the water plant, what have you.
Well, how were you informing the public with important information after the hurricane?
Well, social media was king wherever they could get it at that time. We know that some of the phone service was out. A lot of people still use landlines, what have you, but a lot of services were out. Even some of the cellular services were out. But social media was a point. I mean, there's some people who actually, spent money on those digital radio systems where they were able to hear some of the news channel and what have you. But most of social media and word of mouth, being in neighborhoods, knowing key people in neighborhoods that were still there, able to get information out. And the majority of it was just riding through neighborhoods, seeing people out, letting people know that something's going on, giving out water. I had water in my truck for people who needed water, things of that nature, tarps for people who need them. Just going through the neighborhood with ice and seeing who needs what and make sure they had it.
Well, since you mentioned like going in the community, Riding around, that I do agree that was about all you could really do because cell phone coverage was really horrible. When I realized I drove to Avondale, after you got past Avondale or before, the cell phone coverage was like done.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, especially for AT&T subscribers and some other people. I have AT&T. I didn't have any problems with mine, but I don't know. It's just some people where they were, I guess, had issues.
Yes, a lot of people did have issues. And these days, cell phones are very important. And then when you didn't have it, you realize, oh, something's wrong.
Yeah, it's that bad.
Yes. Since you are a state representative of Louisiana, what resources do you offer the community after the hurricane?
Well, that's one of the issues that I'm going to be tackling when we get back to session this year. Is that locally, all the things that happens is on the backs of local government. And here in Jefferson Parish, we have one of the well-established, or most well-established, emergency response units in the state, with our parish being as large as it is. So a lot of things here were done locally, and my role was to normally be a liaison between the state government and Jefferson Parish. But however, during these emergencies, we have GOSEP, which is the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. They have a direct channel with the emergency preparation in Jefferson Parish, so they went straight through them, which took some of the linkage away from representatives per se, unless there was a communication problem. So the resources that I would have liked to have had accessible to me were only based upon my relationships in Jefferson as I know it from being here working for years. But I was able to make sure that whatever the state entities that were involved in emergency preparedness in any form were notified of what needs were through emergency management systems here in Jefferson as well as in the state. So we were able to do that, and we were able to also make sure that whatever Jefferson Parish needed, per se, as representatives, we were there on the line with the with the Governor's Office of Homeland Security as well as FEMA to make sure that those resources were here in the parish.
So, since you mentioned that, was you working with other state representatives and other people in South Louisiana with this going on?
Well, everybody was busy on their own. I mean, South Louisiana was hit hard, with this. And one thing we've learned, if you remember Laura, a couple of years ago in Lake Charles area in Calcasieu, we didn't have any problems here, but we were able to assist them there because we've had so much experience here with it. And now that we have this end of the state that was, had captured all the damages that was going on, we all have a communication that we have with each other. We have a camaraderie of individuals, and we got water, we got other products and things brought from all over the state from my colleagues. I mean, they were sending stuff down to help us. We did some distributions and from have you. We had food meals prepared that was out. That stuff came from other representatives, and we also helped them out as we got clear or got more leveled off here. I'll spend some time in Terrebonne helping those folk down there do cleanup and do distribution as well as in New Orleans. So we actually support each other. A lot of people don't really, believe that we get along that well, but we do. We all Louisianans. But everybody has their own area that they're concerned with, their own district. And we all go to the table as a group representing our district, but we also pull for each other at the same time.
Well, since you also mentioned your district, do you mind telling our listeners about how big your district is and what it entails?
Well, my district is one of 105, which is average about 44,000 people. In the way my district is constructed or the map is drawn, it takes me pretty much all of Harvey and into Marrero. I have some parts of Marrero that I also represent as well. So it's square miles. It can be tricky, but lineage is from south of Manhattan Boulevard all the way to the Westwego line in Marrero, some parts of it, but it's a pretty diverse district. It's a fun district. I love my district, the people in it, and the neighborhoods that I represent. They're really in tune to what goes on. I do my best to keep them informed as to whatever is going on in the state and whatever else I may have access to.
Well, since I've been knowing you for the last few years, I realize that you're doing what you need to do to inform the community.
I try. It's always a hard deal because it comes down to money, it comes down to funding,
Mhm.
it comes down to resources that representatives have. And I have found, in my 6 years of being elected, that the general public is really really underserved when it comes down to information and communication from us, from people who handle their business, from people who represent them. We need to do a better job across the board, everywhere, locally as well as on the state area, of getting information out to people so they can know what's
What
going
type
on.
of information do you mean by that since you mentioned it?
Well, if I walk into Walmart right now and I leave you, I'm going to see on average 5 or 6 people that I know. And of those 5 or 6 people, one person is going to know what I do. They're going to know exactly where my office is, and they're going to know where they seen me last at.
Mhm.
The other 4 or 5 are going to have an idea what I do, but if I asked them what I did, they couldn't tell me. One's going to ask me about councilmatic duties. One's going to ask me about state duties from another office.
Mhm.
And the last two is probably going to ask me about something happening in Washington, D.C., because they're going to think I'm in Congress. And so a lot of times people don't know what you really do.
Mhm.
They don't understand what the responsibilities you have. And for the most part, they don't understand the opportunity that they have for the connection of information that's there for them to know exactly what goes on in their area where they're at. So we need to do a better job of having those people accessible to us, which I'm very accessible. But as an overall spectrum, and when election times come, people see you or they go and vote, and they usually scramble to find out what they can about the candidate
Mhm.
or what goes on. But these are the most important times now,
Yes.
because there's no election, there's no promotion, there's no mail outs, there's no commercials.
Mhm.
It's what you are doing and what they know about that you're doing now that affects their livelihoods.
Yes. And I do agree with that. With this day and age, more people can get more information on a regular basis. So I bet this is going to turn around.
Well, we would hope so. I mean, I'm a part of social media on every format that's there, and I have a pretty good Facebook following, and I do get information out to those folk. And a lot of times, I found out that some people, especially more of our seasoned community, are not on Instagram and
Oh, yeah, that's
Facebook.
right.
They still rely on something in the news, something in the mail, or just regular communication. So
Mhm.
it's vital when you talk about community activities, community representation, and so those people can have access to you.
What groups or organizations are working with you after the hurricane?
Well, I mean, in terms of volunteering groups,
Yes.
well, there's some a lot of activity goes on, goes on. I can name them. I'll name a few, because what I do is I don't have a staff. Like some offices have 7 and 8 people. Like the district councilman has 6, 7, 8 people in the offices. I only have one. That's me and my legislative assistant. So the majority of my work is sometimes designed by me, oftentimes it's designed by other groups, because we find out if we partner together, and I use my platform to help any cause that's worthy. And I let them know my platform is there for you to use anytime you want to. So they give me a call and say, Rep, can we organize this or can we organize that? And we participate. And I say, yeah, you can put my name on it. And we go out and we do things, and people come out and get involved in it. But I do work with the Jeremiah Group, of course. Miss Jackie is family to me. I love her to death. And we do work with the Omega Psi Phi, the Gamma Rho fraternity group here on the West Bank. They are great as doing not just giveaways but other community activities regularly. I also work with the Oscar James Dunn Masonic Lodge in Gretna. They participate in a few things. And oh my gosh, there's a host of other nonprofit groups that put things on.
Yes.
That I just work with them. I don't want to start naming people and miss some people. I did that already. I'm gonna miss some people, but church organizations. There's a lot of groups that work through the churches that they do things and they want participation, not just for their members, but the communities that where they build and reside, and I help them as well. So it's a lot of people. But post Ida, those groups that I mentioned has been doing some things. I work with United Way on some gives here. I also work with the Red Cross. We have a liaison that's still in town, as a matter of fact, to help us. We've done some meals. We've done some cleaning supplies. We also did some tarps, some water and ice. We did a whole bunch of things, and now we're getting ready to probably do some toiletries and some other things the next couple of days as soon as they make contact with me again. But we're there.
And that's what counts.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's really what
And I
counts.
can't leave out, I have to say this, Councilman Lee and Jefferson Parish government. The past president, Cynthia Lee Shane, her office has been great about providing staff wherever they need to help out. And I've been with Councilman Lee throughout the 3rd District, Council District, doing a host of activities, since Ida. So
Yes.
I can't leave him out.
He has been doing a lot in the community, and he's basically letting people know that he's out there.
Yes, and we've done joint things. We'll do many more, and because the majority of my district overlaps his 3rd council district, so we work together and combine some efforts. Really good.
What are some of your plans to continue assisting the people of the community?
Well, I have a lot of plans. If we can start from now, let's just say post Ida.
Yes.
As we come out of this recovery from it, one of the biggest things now is to help people understand insurance, help people understand insurance policies, understand the regulation of insurance, understand the do's and don'ts and how these things affect us. Because that's one of those things that a lot of people are finding out right now since Ida, that insurance is not what they thought it was.
Yes. That's a really
so we're going to be looking at that this session with the insurance industry here, kind of like, beating on the insurance commissioner a little bit about some things that we need to have the general public need to know, some transparency about some of these things that these companies are doing in that part and getting us there. After that, as I told you earlier, we're still in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes.
Still an advocate of people getting vaccinated. I'm an advocate of mitigation measures where people wear masks and people do things to get us in a safer position as a community to get back to some regular norm that we can in those parts. And I will still continue to work with community clinics and what have you to provide vaccination opportunities for people who are not vaccinated, as well as information for those who don't know. And as we go forward, it's just about strengthening community. Mike, a lot about me that a lot of people may not know. Most people do know. I'm a community guy. Yes. I come from the communities where I come from. I'm not a homegrown politician. I'm not a guy who likes to hear his name called just to smile. I come from the roots, and of the communities, and that's where my efforts are. Making communities stronger through effective leadership, inclusion, and the ability for people to understand exactly what their rights are, what they should have access to, and to love their communities and take pride in their communities. And we all understand that we can grow together. And that's the basis of what I'm about. And I'll be doing continual work to make people understand and know that in my service to them.
Well, you did a good job explaining all that. And I do like how you mentioned about the insurance, that people are learning about a whole lot with the hurricane, because you're hearing that constantly, like why some things are going this way with the insurance, why some don't want to pay, why some doing partial payments. So if people like you are able to get information out that in the future, people will appreciate that a whole lot.
Well, we're going to take a shot at it because, a lot of people don't know that, we're going through these insurance policies and we're still basically almost paying for Katrina, with the cost of insurance. Now they've created a hurricane policy, which is different than a regular damage or a regular fire policy that you normally have. It's designed just for hurricanes, which gives them an opportunity to increase the cost of it because it's a whole new product. But with that, some of the deductibles is totally through the roof. And for middle income, low income people to pay a percentage of the value of your home for deductible, and we're going to find out some of the average claim amounts that people pay, but that the insurance companies pay out during these hurricanes. And it's just amazing, that it's such a widespread deal where people aren't able to basically repair their home damage based upon, what the value of the home is versus the damage, and then depreciation. And then there's a deductible that's either 2 or 5% of the value of your home. I may have gotten insurance. You may have gotten insurance on your home 15, 20 years ago.
Yes.
And it's based on one value. And now that the value of your home has increased, the value of insurance has increased as well, which is understandably in some measures. But for hurricane process, it's just, something that we need to look at is how we mitigating these factors to help people recover from these things. And it's not happening right now.
Yeah, and plus also the cost of living is continue going up.
It is.
And that's also a factor.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the concerns the people in your district has over hurricane response in the community?
Well, we're still right now gathering that information. We ask people questions in some of these giveaways we have. We have questionnaires where people can answer them. And we also welcome, as we start moving around more into the community meetings that they're going to start having again. And that's a question I'm going to ask all the time. How are you faring out? What are some of your concerns? And what do you think about your response, to the hurricane, whether it be a state level, local level, any other level? What's your feel of the response? Did you have a need that wasn't met? Is it direction that you needed that wasn't there? Is it access to information that you didn't get? Even with all those things being in place, we're going to know, a lot about it. And that's one of the things that help us get better if, people don't say anything, which is one reason why I'm happy to be in the community, because I'm places where a lot of elected officials are not. So when I start talking about some of the concerns, it's about getting a voice at the table, an extension.
Yeah, so voice at the table is very important. Basically, what I was trying to go ahead and say was, do you know, maybe about how many people you might have kind of spoke to about what they might have told you?
About hurricane response?
Yes.
Well, one of the biggest issues that I had, and it derived from complaints of people, was, number one, getting access to resources. I think that we had 2 points of distribution, which is called pods, that that FEMA actually sets up, and we usually have the National Guard to operate those. We had one at the Larry Center in Jefferson, West Jefferson, and we had one at Helen Cox School. Those 2 pods did not get active until several days after the hurricane, which in fact was at least 2 days after New Orleans had their pods operating. And people were wondering, well, how could New Orleans get stuff going so fast, and we don't even be equally to that? And that goes to the response. And as an individual, as I told you earlier, my role was in the neighborhoods, moving through the community after the storm on Monday, because, Monday was a day of everybody should be still. But I was out late Monday, early Tuesday, surveying stuff. And you had people who couldn't get out to Larry Center. You had people who couldn't get to Helen Cox School. You had people who, didn't have use of a car, and those distributions were limited. So I thought overall of some of the complaints about how they have to get stuff. And then we had a problem with gasoline, if you remember.
Yes,
people couldn't get gas.
Was a number one
and I remember several officials were saying that, they had a problem with people moving around, and then they had a problem with people waiting in line for 2 hours to get ice and get MREs or whatever from a water from the sites. But if you only had 2, which was 5 miles away from what was your other recourse?
Yes.
So we should have more pods or distribution areas into neighborhoods, into communities in the future to limit your mobility. If you don't want people moving around, you have to bring the services to them or where they can access it. And that's what me and some of my friends or some elected officials were doing. We were out in the communities getting resources from the points of distribution, bringing them into the neighborhoods where people, were able to get them. So other than that part, some people were concerned, now that they know that the insurance was on their case about, making an evacuation or not, which under all safe, intensive purposes, there wasn't enough time to do it. This storm went from a category 1, maybe the strongest of 2 if it hit landfall, to a 3, maybe a 4 within 10 to 12 hours later. So it happened real fast, but that's the main thing I really heard. People just wanted to get stuff to them so they could stay home, because believe it or not, everyone can't leave. Now some of the people who left Kind of like, if I know I was gonna have trouble getting refunded for my evacuation, I would have never left. In that particular case, because my home was not damaged as much as it was. But it's a chance that you take.
Yes, that's true.
So for by and large, most people were very, receptive to whatever responses that they got.
Well, all the other questions were mostly about the hurricane, but this is going to be mostly about you as a state representative. What are some of your future goals as a state representative for Louisiana?
Well, for Louisiana, there's two parts to that, Mike. There's the Louisiana part first, and then there's the District 87 Jefferson Parish part second. So I'm for the state part. I'm gonna go first and say that as a representative for the state, I want to. My goal is to be more, you know, as I mentioned to you earlier. I want to make sure there's enough access to information from people throughout the state. I'll be fighting to make sure that we provide more communication avenues and opportunities for people to know what's going on in Baton Rouge that affects them through laws, policies, and things of that nature. And another part, into that, and part B to that is to just serve with integrity. Continue to work hard for the people of this state, whether or not you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, whether you're middle class, part of the lower income, or even some of the more affluent people in this state. Just try to have a fair overall quality of life for everyone here, and pass laws and do things that'll make us proud, and we can all kind of like be in harmony to living together well. And that's a part that goes throughout the state, and that entitles me to have good relationships with my colleagues throughout the states and all 64 parishes that I currently have, and be a good representative, be a good lawmaker, be a good tentative to what people needs are in the state through every level of government. And locally, back home here in my base, just be the best representative, be as accessible as I can to try to strengthen my community as much as I can through not just laws, because we do laws in Baton Rouge, but here we apply the processes so people can know what processes apply to them. What can we do as far as legislative measures to make our lives here in Jefferson, in my district, better, to help the elected officials here locally have a voice or have an arm or extension in Baton Rouge to fight for funding for things here, fight for direction of things that make our quality of life better in Jefferson, and to be able to walk through neighborhoods proudly and let people know that hey, you don't have to worry about this because I got it. And that's kind of like what I want to do and continue doing that. There's educational measures that need to be met. Education is something that is really big. You want to make sure that the laws that we're passing that govern those parts of our community with our youth are just, fair, inclusive. And you want to make sure that you spend a lot of time providing for those kids to grow and doing things here that's there. And we also want to make sure that businesses have opportunities to develop here. Our economic status here can be robust if we participate. Small businesses continue to thrive and grow, and those measures are there. A lot of people don't know about them, So it's about what makes my district good, and making sure those things there. We have a real intricate part of Jefferson Parish. Like I said, Manhattan Boulevard, that corridor is my district. That's downtown West Bank. You have the majority of your fast eating or your next level eating establishments there in Harvey on Manhattan Boulevard. You have major economic growth with hotels there. So it's downtown West Bank, and we want to expand throughout Harvey to Marrero and other parts beyond to do well. So there's a lot that's going to happen. There's a lot that's going to grow. Right now, I'm just trying to, continue what I've done the last 6 years is provide opportunities for our young people, provide opportunities for recreational activities, provide opportunities for our seniors that they can have, good quality of life where they are, and be there for people when they need me.
I like how you explain that. Well, since you mentioned about the youth and young adults and the youth is very important because they keep the community going further past the senior citizens. What is one or maybe two things that you try to focus on for the youth?
Well, I'll go a little bit step further than that, and I'll go to the largest combined subdivision in the state of Louisiana. A lot of people don't know that's the Woodmere subdivision.
Yes.
It's the largest confined subdivision. And there's more young people from 3-year-olds to 14-year-olds in any confined area throughout the metropolitan area. You'll be surprised how many young people there. So I've developed what I call my triangle of hope. And the triangle of hope is designed to have a neighborhood grow their young people with participation, life skills, a whole bunch of I'm not going to use the word coddling, but you want
Uh-huh.
to the old school ways of neighborhoods when we grew up, when I grew up, and not that old, but everybody in your neighborhood had a purpose that you knew of because you were close to people. You understood what they were doing. You played together, you went to school together. Everything happened. So what I'm doing is I'm developing a Woodmere Community Youth Center,
Oh, okay.
which should be hopefully open by the end of this year, end of next year, and middle of next year, summer. And that's going to serve for youth development in that community from kindergarten on up to high school, up to junior high school kids. And it's going to provide a host of activities, nonprofit activities in regards to after school, homework, tutoring. There's going to be life skills. There's going to be all types of other training for arts and what have you in this facility. And it's designed to work, as I said, a triangle of hope. It's designed to work in conjunction with the elementary school because we want kids that come from school not to be latchkey kids, but we want kids to come from school and jump into an environment of help that's there for them. So when you have homework problems, you don't leave school and you drop books and you don't do anything else until you go back to school.
Mhm.
And then there's a playground mechanism as well in that. It's a triangle where you got kids who go to school, they participate in school, they leave school, they go to activities at a youth center, whether it be homework help, whether it be self-help classes, whether it be nurturing classes and things of that nature. And then they leave from there, or in conjunction with that, they go to the playground and participate in seasonal sports activities. That's there. So there's some things I have going with the expansion and growth of Woodmere Playground, as well as the youth center development as well. And I've been, talking the last couple of years with the superintendent of schools, as well as the district school board representative, to make that connection with the school board to that youth center. And that youth center is going to be in conjunction with the playground as a building that's willed to the parish, but we've done it with state monies to do that. So my triangle of hope is going to be a model for communities throughout West Jefferson and hopefully the area as we build into that. And that'll allow kids to stay in the neighborhood. I know one of the things that happen with charter schools now is you can go from any neighborhood to any school.
Yes.
And, right now it used to be in ages, if you live in a certain neighborhood, everybody went to school together from grade school to middle school to high school. And now we're kind of bringing some of that back to a triangle that has all those functions in there that makes a community work. So we're hoping that parents are going to get involved in this well, I'm going to make sure they do. There's going to be a component in there for parents as well. But we're going to have a triangle of hope. So we're going to hope and build hope into the minds of our young people. We're going to build hope into the adults. And we're going to build hope into the community that we are bringing or raising our young people up in a way that's structured going outside the community. So it's going to be a fun deal. I'm excited about it as always. But it's been working, something I've been doing for the last 3 years now. It's good.
Oh, okay. I
It's
like
good.
what you just mean, triangle of hope.
That's it. It's my triangle. It's Representative Lyons, Rep Lyons Triangle of Hope. It's something that I've been working on since 2016 and in concept, and I started putting the wheels to it in 2018 when we were able to secure funding to purchase this building on Alex Corman. And what we've done, and I've had the help of Councilman Spears as well as Councilman Lee in doing that, as well as doing some upgrades to the Woodmere Playground as it sits, and we're gonna make it work. with all the kids in mind, and also taking care of my seniors too. That's there's a triangle of hope that's there, and there's another group that we deal with, and that's the senior guild. They have their own triangle as well. That's the triangle of success because it's all seasoned individuals. We've created senior guilds in Old Harvey, Woodmere, as well as we're working with the existing senior guild in the Marrero Senior Center. So those three groups work in conjunction with each other to provide opportunities for seniors 55 and older or 65 and older under the program to have youthful activities. Not only do they just play bingo, but they line dance, they have crocheting, they have a whole host of other trips and activities that they plan to do. And we created that to make sure that they have that attentive attention to themselves because they're the triangle of success. They're still here, they're vibrant. So they've been successful in being this far in life with the blessings that God has given them. So it's by right that we create opportunities for them to continue to flourish until that time.
Well, I do like how you explain what Triangle of Hope and explain it in two different ways. One with the youth and then with the senior citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Because the senior citizens, they do need some place to go and they also need some things to do in the community. And I like how you just expressed that.
Well, that's been, I told you, that's my alpha and my omega, the beginning and the end of some things that's the most dear to me, and everybody in the middle is there too. But, we have to, in order to have a success at the end, we have to have hope and benefit at the beginning. So that's what we're trying to do. And we're working with that.
Yes, well, I agree everything you have said. Well, we have came to the end of this interview. So, what do you thought about it so far?
The interview, I enjoyed the interview. Told you, I have a lot of long answers, and I apologize for some of the long answers, but it goes back to what I said earlier about having the opportunity to give information to people. I want to make sure they have as much information as I possibly can give them when I'm talking because I don't know, and I got to come back again on a show with you again. Can we do this regularly? Can we do some regular deal here?
I could fit you in.
Work it out to have a regular thing so we can give people information, and hopefully we have people who call into you or write in for questions and stuff like that. I love giving people information. That's the only way you measure your success by how far you're able to touch people in this business. I mean, some people do it by how many offices you hold, how many years you be in business. And, I want to say that I've touched many, many people in the last 6 years that more than I anticipated. Mm-hmm. But my success is based upon how well I touch you, how well I access you, how well I represent you, how well I make you informed of what's going on, how well I'm able to speak on your behalf, and how well you know what's going on in your district and in your state. That's where the success is measured at. Not anywhere else that does matters than that. And then you vote and you represent them according to what you know. If you don't talk to people, you don't see people, you don't engage people, how you know what they want? How you know what they like?
You won't know.
I mean, if you look at my legislation over the last 6 years, you're going to find that it's all people driven. None of it's based on national trends. It's not based on, regional trends or things that people think is popular now or what they want to do. Everything that I've done is based upon my experience with people, and it's people driven in my district and beyond. So we're good.
Well, I really enjoyed interviewing you today. And for the people can get more information about you, do you mind listing some of your contact information?
Absolutely. I can be reached at my office, of course, 504-510-5417. My office hours are 8 to 4 every Monday through Friday. We can be reached by email, Lyons, Lyons, R, at legis.la.gov. That's legis, legis.la.gov. That's our email information. We're on Facebook, on social media. You can look for Rep Lyons, and on Instagram, Rep Rodney Lyons 87. And you also can find me at Rodney Lyons Sr., Representative Rodney Lyons on Facebook. And on Twitter, you can find me at Lyons for Leader. at Twitter, and we're there. So anytime you want to reach us, reach me for anything, just call me anytime, and we can have conversation about whatever your interest is. If you want to, have a community conversation, like some people call me and say, hey, I got to give out a shout to those people in Maplewood. They call me up and say, listen, two of my neighbors have questions, and we're not having a meeting. Can you talk to them? I said, well, can you invite them over to your house? We talk in your yard because we're in COVID. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll bring the lemonade, and you bring the tea or the cookies, whatever you want to have, and we can talk for 2 hours in your yard. Invite as many neighbors as you want. Mm-hmm. And this is something that we did early on before COVID when we had meet and greets. We called it we call it rapping with the rep. I will come over to your house, and you invite your neighbors over and your friends over, and we'll just talk about whatever they want to talk about. Take an hour out of your time. I won't come during Saints games or Pelicans games, but it's just about being out there for people who want information. And there's things that go on in different communities. Every community is different, but I have no problem. I promise to be accessible to people, and I have been. And if you want me to come by and talk to your neighbors and you, I will. We'll schedule a day or evening, afternoon, whatever, and we'll come by and talk about whatever issues you want. And I also suggest that, you support all your community activities. Civic associated meetings, I'm at every one. If I miss one, it's because I'm in session. And if I'm not there, my assistant, she's there to work. And I have a junior assistant as well. She's in college, but she's always around. So we're always there. Our presence is at every meeting. That's our general intent, is to be there and be informed. So I'm there.
Well, one other thing I'd like to go ahead and say, since we have a lot of listeners that's outside Louisiana, if someone wants to get, how do you give some advice to somebody who wants to get information from their state representative or their state?
Well, everybody does it a little bit different, based upon how they run their offices and what have you. You can go, for example, if you want to know something about any Louisiana representative, you can go to the House of Representatives site in Louisiana, and that will connect you with me. It'll connect you to my office. It'll connect you to links there to all the social media spots as well. And you can do the same. You can go to Mississippi House of Representatives, the State House in Texas, and several other places, and you can find almost everyone now has a website that links you to your representative based upon your address and where you are. And they probably won't call you like I would if you leave a message, but hey, that's the way you can meet them. Uh-huh. And if anyone listening missed the information that we had, you can go to the Louisiana House of Representatives site, and you can just Google it, however you want to go to it and do it. And you can find out about your state representative. You can find out about your senators. You can find out about laws, when session is. You can find out about other state agencies there as well. There's a host of information online that you can get hold to.
Well, I do like how you just explained everything. And once again, this is the end of the interview. I want to go ahead and say thank you, Rodney Lyons, for being a guest on Consulting Between Friends podcast.
Well, I thank you again for having me, and I'm looking forward to coming back again. And I'm going to find out, how we have this a regular hour or something, to let people know what's going on. Depending on the feedback. If you guys want to regularly talk to me about things or just want to know what's going on, send Mike a message letting him know that, so we can work that out, and we can have it. But we're here, and probably at the beginning of next year,
yes,
we're going to be doing redistricting, and I want to come back with you and talk about redistricting, what it means for everybody else in the state in different areas. That's important to know.
Yes,
so we'll do whatever you do, Mike. I want to support you. We can be between friends. So your friends are my friends.
Yes.
All right, we good.
In conclusion, I hope everyone learned something from today's interview with State Representative Rodney Lyons. He explained a lot of different things that is going on in the state of Louisiana and how he is working in the community to inform the public. He also gave suggestions and things that he is working on in the future to inform the public. He also explained how he was working in the community after Hurricane Ida and how other political officials was doing the same thing. By listening to this interview, you have learned how important it is to have a state representative in your community and also learn what their job is in your community. I hope this interview was very informative and that you learn a lot about what a state representative does in a community. And I hope you get a chance to learn more about the one in your community where you live and also realize how a state representative is very important to the people in the community. One last thing, remember to support Black business owners and learn more about your public officials in your community. Thank you for listening to Consulting Between Friends. This podcast is available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts, as well other platforms that are available. So like and subscribe. Need to contact us and leave us a comment? You can find us on Instagram at Consulting the letter B Friends. Once again, Consulting B Friends. An email address is consulting the letter B friends at gmail.com. Once again, consulting B friends at gmail.com. Consulting Between Friends. Thanks to everyone for making this possible. Your hosts, Michael Holmes Jr. and co-host Shayar Jones. The producer and content creator, Michael Holmes Jr. Artwork cover, Michael Holmes Jr. Original music, a DJ name / special guest, Rodney Lyons, State Representative of District 87. Facebook, Rodney Lyons Sr. Content distributor, Power 77 Radio.